Camp Lo, featuring Geechee Suede and Sonny Cheeba, Bronx, New York. Today's feature is a rap group from the 90s whose uniqueness you instantly recognized and understood their talent and potential even when their lyrics flew over unprepared heads. Inspired by the Blaxploitation film era of the 70s, Camp Lo was easily one of the more slept on and underrated rap acts of their time when it comes to achievement, accolades, fame, and popularity. But real hip-hop and rap fans know what Camp Lo added to the genre and playing field in the 90s at a time no one was doing what they were attempting to as far as incorporating nostalgic sounds and imagery into their presentation, with the rhymes to match that may have even been too advanced for their rise in rap. It's long been debated that their style, specifically Sonny Cheeba, inspired Jay-Z's rap style back in those days, who was held as the greatest rapper of all time by many. Hearing and seeing a rap duo like Camp Lo, I can see how their inspiration can be taken very seriously and lead to many imitations of what they were doing. It was fresh, they had their smooth criminal raps down pat, and their own lane where their only competition was being put in the right light and placed in position the masses could see, hear, and most importantly, have time and motivation to decipher their complex intentions on records. When you speak about rap artists that can say they've made anything classic in the 90s, the list goes on, as those days hip-hop was booming with talented artists all hungry to make a name for themselves in the ultra-competitive times, and Camp Lo was right up there. Their song Lucchini, aka This Is It, is still to this day one of the best hip-hop songs of all time, and again, the inspiration you feel in that song is clear in the work of Sean Carter himself back then when he was still trying to find the next flow to move him up the ladder. It's actually produced by the same producer that worked with Jay-Z on many of his 90s hits like In My Lifetime, Dead Presidents, Feelin' It, and more. Feelin' It, a beat reportedly made for Camp Lo initially, who frequented the same studio and worked with Ski at the time, was able to secure it for himself. This Is It was the lead single from their 1997 Uptown Saturday Night debut album that's also held as a hip-hop classic, perfectly encapsulating the run Camp Lo had from 95 to 97, attempting to make a name for themselves. Many believe they should have been bigger rappers, seeing how original they were, and all they inspired with their flow, cadence, and choice of beats. Yet, most forget how dope Camp Lo was as rappers, who strive to go as far left from the pack as possible. What happened to their rise in rap, and why aren't they remembered for their classic material? Let's talk about it. Salute to Meta_Wave on IG for this request. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Camp Lo is a rap group featuring Cheeba and Suede, rappers from the Bronx, New York, formed in 1995 when Ski Beats suggested the two get together for a song and things hit off. Their sound and style was much different than anyone were doing at the time, incorporating 70s disco, funk, jazz, and East Coast mafioso rap all into one package. Let's not forget the bars that they were uniquely known for that spoke to Camp Lo being unpredictable even in that sense. They'd quickly signed to Profile Records and released Coolie High, a single that appeared on the soundtrack for the Great White Hype sports comedy film in 1996, starring Samuel L. Jackson. Thereafter, they began work on their debut album they've been cultivating since 1995. Upon release, it instantly became a standout to close out the decade, going gold in the process. Since then, they've experienced an extreme decline in notoriety more than anything. Stunt number 1, limited promotion. Camp Lo's entire existence screams a lack of something that made them fall behind the competition in the golden 90s, and that something was a lack of promotion by their small-time label. The thing about being an original or before your time is it's difficult to find where you either fit in or lead the pack. When I say fit in, I mean not because you're different means that will be taken in a way the powers that be can see and follow your vision. If you aren't specific and precise with how you carry out rolling that out, it can easily be misunderstood or simply passed over for something that's much more easy to decipher because it takes less work. If a record label sees a Jay-Z that has the style, has the bars, and he connects to the streets and time, he's a package ready to be shipped out, whereas Camp Lo's style was going to take a bit more planning and pushing in the face of the masses so they notice the uniqueness of the artist. Once that's done, it all depends how much the fans like what they see and support it through their purchase. But even when that's accomplished, how much did the label spend making Camp Lo household names opposed to what they had to spend making an already packaged and connecting artist like Jay-Z grow onto the fans? While possible, it takes a certain machine to find ways to slow down or make more clear the vision of Camp Lo, and it costs sometimes more than the artist can bring in return. Most labels would much rather work with who's less of a project and can be counted on to play it safe with artists they don't quite understand what to do with. Because of this, Profile Records did what they could do as a smaller label, but in the end, it wasn't always enough to push Camp Lo to the forefront in 90s hip-hop. Wasn't like they didn't try, but again, Camp Lo were originals. It wasn't easy to pinpoint a can't-miss strategy to blow them up more, and they lost ground trying to catch up to artists with major labels behind them, putting them in positions to look bigger than they were in the new shiny suit era. A Camp Lo on a Def Jam at the time, Jive, or Universal directly could have been much more appreciated on a mass level than the limited budget on a Profile Records. Stunt number 2, second album, 5-year delay. Looking back at it, it feels the 90s was one of the great experimentation times in hip-hop, where you had so many artists wanting to be a part of this hastily moving train that gave black and brown people one of the few ways out of poverty and dangerous environments. Artists were trying anything to stand out, and while that enhanced an originality that's missing in today's music, it made competition much more stiff and the bar raised a lot higher. Selling 500,000 copies in the 90s, early 2000s was almost like a failure back then, whereas you can sell 60,000 today and it still be considered a solid turnout. Not going platinum when Camp Lo was in their heyday could have you sitting on the shelves for another artist going platinum every time, who just so happens to have a style similar to yours, and he's building a following that believes his every word and can relate to the heavy drug-dealing streets popular in that time. After their debut album, Camp Lo earned a chance to release sooner, but issues with the label providing a release date was slow enough that other artists caught up to them and became much more popular. It also hurt they didn't have a song leading up to their Let's Do It Again album that could stand up to the singles on their first, like Lucchini that landed at 27 on the Billboard Top 200 and Top 5 in hip-hop and rap. For as long as fans waited for their second album, critically it disappointed and commercially it failed to connect as well. It didn't help they parted ways with Profile and Arista Records after album 1, who had a much bigger budget than Diamond Crook Records, who released Let's Do It Again. In that 5 years, much of their hip-hop fans had moved on to artists that fed them much more often. Stunt number 3, times changed. The early 2000s has to be one of the biggest about-face changes in hip-hop, where almost as soon as the decade began, it drew a line in the sand between what was hot then and what was hot now. The conscious boom-bap sound had all been replaced with whatever jiggy sound that sold more records, as that's what it became about right away, selling records and being as marketable as possible to mainstream. Years into the decade, gangsta rap returned, with 50 Cent stirring the pot and being the biggest rapper in the game from 2001 to about 2003-2004. Coming off the Jay-Z Nas on Wax beef, hip-hop wasn't ready for where 50 Cent was looking to take rap beef, but it sure created a change in the East Coast sound to be much more aggressive but also able to sell. This is why 50 Cent had so much success with records like 21 Questions, Magic Stick, and Candy Shop. As the years went by, hip-hop changed completely with snap music, then crunk music, ringtone rap, and swag rap, until the decade closed with Camp Lo and Afterthought because they didn't fit in any of those boxes and were much past their prime appealing physical self or experiences the younger generation would care about. They were essentially stuck in the 90s and time passed them by. It didn't stop them from releasing and touring, putting out 8 albums since their sophomore in 2002, but nothing connected as fans accumulated much more slowly for Camp Lo. The group also changed their name from Camp Lo to The Low for a stretch under hip-hop legend Mr. C's advice, which could have created confusion. All in all, hip-hop heads understand and haven't forgotten Camp Lo. They were significantly important to hip-hop in ways we still may not know, seeing how vast their inspiration effect was. They made a classic debut album, even if the rest of their work continues to be slept on, mainly for these reasons. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.